I'm just going to look at maybe three scriptures, or rather three instances. It's not necessarily scriptures, but I think that the first one is that of Abraham. When we read about Abraham, we are introduced to Abraham in the book of Genesis chapter 11. This is after the Tower of Babel. And it speaks about, when you read Genesis chapter 11 from verse 31, it speaks about Abraham's family, where they were in Ur of the Chaldeans. And this place Ur has been known, or has been depicted as a place that was the center of idolatry, that where all the gods and all the pagan worshippers dwell there in Ur of the Chaldeans. So that's in when you read in Genesis chapter 11, verse 31, we read about Abraham's father moving out his family from Ur of the Chaldeans to a place called Haran. But still, when they got to Haran, God actually then calls Abraham out and says, now I need you to further separate yourself. And I think this actually paints even the picture of our salvation, which is actually in 3 steps, where God calls us out of Ur of the Chaldeans, so we need to leave the place of sin. And when they were in Haran, God actually called Abraham to a further separation from his relatives, or even his family, his father's house. And our separation, or our growing out from all the influences, it actually moves beyond our living the lifestyle of sin, or there is still a greater need for us to recognize a further step of consecration even after we have been saved. And I think with Abraham, we see even these 2 steps. And when we read about the second instance, we read about Jacob, and I'm going to dwell on this a little bit more. When we read about the life of Jacob, we're going to read from the book of Genesis chapter 32, and I'm going to be paraphrasing quite a lot because it's a very rich story, or rich account that is given there about Jacob. So when we read about Jacob, if we can even go into a little bit of a background, we read about Jacob first fleeing from Esau, his brother, because he had stolen the birthright, and he goes and lives in the house of his uncle, Laban the Syrian, who was an idol worshipper.